Hey everyone, welcome to Loft 801. Thank you for tuning in. My name is Diego, and this video is a review of Rick and Morty Season 1. With Season 7 right around the corner, I figured it would be a good idea for me to go back and check out previous seasons. Now, if you don't know much about Rick and Morty, that is totally fine. I will catch you up. It was created by Justin Roiland and Dan Harmon, and Season 1 was released on December 2nd, 2013, almost 10 years ago. Fun fact, Season 1 is the only season to have 11 episodes, so thank you to the writers for the extra fun. Now, you might be aware that Justin Roiland had some domestic abuse charges brought against him earlier this year. While the charges were dropped, he is still rightfully so in hot water because of some messages with some underage girls. As a result, Adult Swim and other networks have removed him from their shows. For my sake, as I review the first 6 seasons, I am largely going to ignore this fact because I don't know how Season 7 is going to address this. So, 2 days after recording that, we got the official trailer for Season 7, and we got to hear the new voice actor. Justin Roiland has officially been replaced. The new voice actor is anonymous, but they do a wonderful job, so I'm excited to see how the season progresses. Anyways, the show follows Rick Sanchez and the Smith family as they go on zany adventures across the multiverse. The Smith family consists of Beth, Rick's daughter, her husband Jerry, their daughter Summer, and their son Morty. Their adventures raise some inter-family conflicts, but I will get to those a little later. Because before I hop into my review, I've got a few business items to take care of. You know, if you want to support the channel, you can do so by leaving a like and hitting subscribe and the notification bell. It is super appreciated. Thank you. Also, this review will contain some heavy spoilers, so continue at your own risk. Lastly, if there's something that you want to see reviewed, leave a comment down below and I will get to it. Thank you. I'm hopping in 3, 2, 1. Episode 1, titled Pilot, sets the tone for the series and gives us some pretty good insight into the family dynamics. From the opening scene, we can see that Rick is a heavy drinking, narcissistic control freak with no respect for his family. Doing a 180, Morty is an incredibly anxious and timid grandson. He basically does everything Rick tells him to do, at least in this season. In reality, Morty is a lot like his father Jerry, cowardly and submissive. On the other hand, Summer is a bit more like Rick. She's not as adventurous, but she definitely has some serious sass. This also comes from her mother Beth, whose personality also aligns with Rick's. So why did I bring all of this up? Well, for starters, it gives us some context on how the family functions. I really appreciate that. It also provided many comedic opportunities that were nicely used. Rick being manipulative, Jerry being a jealous husband, and Beth thinking lowly of Morty. One of my favorite jokes was when Jerry insulted Rick.
Oh, look, honey, it's our son with Albert Eindouche.
In general, episode 1 did an amazing job of setting up the characters and their intentions. It did what a pilot is supposed to do. Taking a step back for a more top-down view of this episode, I really enjoyed the humor. It was funny and unexpected, and there were lots of jokes I laughed at.
Yeah, maybe I am. I'm my father's daughter. I'm smart. Why do you think I'm a heart surgeon?
Heart surgeon.
Hello?
Mrs. Smith, this is Principal Vagina. No relation.
Silly, vulgar, and as stupid as they were, I still laughed. On top of that, the animation is eye-catching. Not in a wow, this is stunning kind of way. It's more so a what am I watching kind of way. There's a lot going on with great attention to background detail. The sci-fi in this show provides us with lots of space, aliens, and fighting, which I'm here for. Lastly, I love how when Rick drops some website URLs like www.rickandmortyadventures.com, they redirect to Adult Swim's streaming website for the show. It is awesome seeing how much effort the writers put into this episode. So, outside of some vulgar jokes, I thought this episode was a great way to kick off the entire series, so I gave this episode a 9.2 out of 10. Episode 2, Lawnmower Dog, was fun to watch. It had 2 plots that it jumped back and forth with, and it did so nicely. In one plot, Rick helps Morty pass his math test so they can continue to go on adventures, and in the other plot, the family dog Snuffles is equipped with some tech that makes him the alpha of the family. Again, I love the little details that show how Rick only thinks about himself and not his family. I also love the reference to Inception and Nightmare on Elm Street. Scary Terry certainly wasn't scary, but he definitely made me laugh.
Buckle up.
Man, he sure says a lot.
You can run, but you can't hide, bitch.
I skipped over this in episode 1, but I love how school plays an important part in Morty's life right now. The school staff cracks me up.
I'm just doing my best.
Morty, what are you doing to me?
Jessica.
Morty!
Jessica.
5 more minutes of this and I'm gonna get mad.
Bro, what? Episode 2 also started cementing Jerry as my favorite character in the entire show. This dude is on some different wavelengths. Anyways, overall, I really enjoyed this episode and I gave it a 9.4. I also really enjoyed episode 3, Anatomy Park. Again, it has 2 plots, with one of them being a spoof on Jurassic Park. Basically, Rick shrinks Morty and injects him into a hobo's body, where he experiences Spleen Mountain, Bladder Falls, Pirates of the Pancreas, Haunted Liver, and a couple more anatomy-themed rides. Morty also meets Dr. Xenon Blue, Poncho, Annie, and Roger, who looks a lot like Steve Irwin. Honestly, this episode feels like an adult version of the Magic School Bus, and I love it. Unfortunately for the hobo, things end explosively, but we get some good laughs from his anatomy. What? The B plot consists of Jerry's parents and their lover Jacob coming to visit for Christmas. We see Jerry's Christmas spirit backfire on him and his dad being a cuck. Can I say that on YouTube? I hope so. Either way, the whole situation made me laugh, and I gave this episode a 9.3 out of 10. Episode 4, M. Night Shaym-Aliens, is one of my favorite episodes this entire season. Obviously, this episode is inspired by M. Night Shyamalan and his gratuitous use of plot twists. Rick and Jerry have been captured by Zygerian scammers who are trying to find out Rick's formula for concentrated dark matter. It's a bit Inception-y with a simulation inside of a simulation inside of a simulation. There are lots of funny jokes about the Zygerians bullying their nerdy worker, Rick hating bureaucrats, and the simulation lagging due to technology constraints. However, my favorite part about this episode is Jerry. He goes back and forth with his confidence, but ultimately has the best day of his life inside the simulation. Unfortunately, after finally feeling complete, the simulation crashes and it breaks him. Outside the simulation and trying to chase the dragon, we see him get fired from his actual job. Poor Jerry. He just wants to be appreciated. This episode was gold and I gave it a 10 out of 10. Episode 5, Meeseeks and Destroy, introduces the Meeseeks box. It can summon a Mr. Meeseeks who will fulfill one request and then disappear. The family takes advantage of the box and has their request fulfilled except for Jerry. He wants to take 2 strokes off his golf game, and boy is it torturous for everyone to watch him try. Rick and Morty wisely escape the Meeseeks madness and go on their own Morty-led adventure. Trigger warning, while it is all fun and games, it does quickly take a dark turn and touches on some serious material. Morty gets sexually assaulted by an alien and loses his desire to go on adventures. Rick is an asshole a lot of the time, but thankfully this isn't one of those moments. He's kind to Morty and later gets revenge on the alien bastard. I thought this episode was great. I appreciated the humor with Meeseeks and Jerry, but I also really appreciated the reality check with Morty. Despite being an animated comedy, the show does have some serious undertones that help make characters feel more realistic and understandable. So, I gave this episode a 9.4. Episode 6, Rick Potion number 9, has a lot in common with the last episode. It starts off fun and quirky, but it ends very darkly. Morty asks Rick for a love potion so he can date his classmate Jessica, but things turn out badly. The potion functions as a mutating virus and converts everyone not related to Morty into Cronenbergs. It is a cool reference to David Cronenberg and the weird monsters in his films. I admire the animators for putting a lot of detail into these monsters. Unfortunately and funnily, the entire world population gets mutated. Rick tries to fix things but continuously makes things worse. Throughout the show, Rick has been preaching that nothing matters because there are an infinite number of universes. He proves his staunch belief by leaving this reality with a horrified Morty and finding another one where they died so they can just slip in like nothing happened. It's dark seeing Jerry, Beth, and Summer left behind fighting monsters on their own. It's even darker when Rick forces Morty to pick up and bury his own body. He's completely traumatized and I I don't blame him. Look on Down from the Bridge by Mazzy Star hammers home how I was feeling. This episode genuinely made me sad. I gave it a 10 out of 10. Episode 7, Raising Gazorpazorp, involves Morty raising Morty Jr., a Gazorpian. His conception certainly made me laugh, which I really needed after the last 2 episodes. We see Morty struggle to be a parent, and I laughed some more because of Jerry and Beth's smugness about parenting being hard. I also got some good laughs from Rick and Summer adventuring on planet Gazorpazorp.
Plan your route accordingly and expect delays. We're not telling you what to do. We're just sharing how we feel.
It was fun seeing their dynamic together, and it was even more fun seeing Rick powerless and having to rely on Summer. It was a good change of pace. Some of my favorite things about this episode were the references to Footloose, Brad Anderson, and Marmaduke. I also love how the episode ended with no lessons learned, and Morty Jr. writing an autobiography titled My Horrible Father. Episode 7 was not my favorite episode of the season, but I still really enjoyed it, and I gave it a 9 out of 10. Moving on, episode 8 was certainly interesting. Rick is bored of cable television and upgrades the family TV to use interdimensional cable. Thanks to Rick, we get a ton of wacky, zany shows, commercials, and ads. Ants in My Eyes Johnson's Electronics, Two Brothers, Ball Fondlers, Gazorpazorp Field, Strawberry Sniggles, Muscular Mannies, Baby Legs, and many more. Now, I'm the kind of guy who loves a good plot, so the deserialization with the TV was not my favorite thing in the world, but I really did enjoy listening to Justin Roiland improv, and I'm sure the animators had fun too. Thankfully for me, there was a storyline with Jerry and Beth seeing what their lives would have been like if they never would have had Summer. It brings them closer together in real life, and the song Seal My Fate by Belly made me appreciate their relationship, toxic as it is. Some of my favorite references in this episode were to celebrities like Johnny Depp, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Kristen Stewart. Episode 8 may have been my least favorite of the season, but I still enjoyed it, and I gave it an 8.9 out of 10. Episode 9, Something Wicked This Way Comes, sees Jerry helping Morty with his science fair project and Rick humiliating the devil. Jerry and Morty get abducted by Plutonians because Jerry incorrectly states that Pluto is a planet. He's treated like a celebrity, and as expected, the fame goes to his head. Meanwhile, Summer gets a job in a cursed item antique store belonging to the devil. Rick opens up a business across from him where he disenchants the items people purchase. We get a funny laugh off between the two of them before Summer calls Rick out for not having a job.
Grandpa, go home and drink.
She then starts a tech company with the devil, but ultimately gets Zuckerberged, so she and Rick get jacked and beat him up on stage. This was one of my favorite throwaways because later on, we see them beating up bullies, Nazis, and people who drag dogs, all to the tune of X Gon' Give It To Ya by DMX. This episode was fun, and we got to see how easily Jerry's stubbornness and cravings for appreciation can go awry. We also got the introduction of the butter robot with a funny joke on sentience. The episode did have a few dark undertones, but I really enjoyed it, and I gave it a 9.2 out of 10. Episode 10, Close Encounters of the Rick Kind, is a canonical episode, and I loved it. We get a crazy intro with evil Rick and evil Morty killing a Rick, stealing his Morty, and traumatizing the Smith family. We then see our Rick, C-137, being arrested by a council of Ricks. We also get to experience the Citadel with thousands of Ricks and Mortys living and visiting there. It is freaking awesome. Our Rick knows he was set up and escapes with Morty, eventually finding the evil Rick and Morty. To Morty's horror, we find out that genius Rick brain waves get canceled out by the Morty waves. If our Rick is the smartest Rick, then that implies that our Morty is also the stupidest Morty. Poor guy. Equally as horrifying, we see that evil Rick and Morty have kidnapped thousands of Mortys to torture and use as a cloaking device. As usual, Morty kinda F's things up and gets them captured. In a typical villain monologue, we see evil Rick reveal his plan. While that's happening, other Morty prisoners view our Morty as the one true Morty and escape with him, eventually killing evil Rick. In the B plot of the episode, Citadel police are stationed at the Smith household in an attempt to track them. It's here that Jerry befriends Doofus Rick, and they have a heartfelt friendship, despite the constant belittlement from the other Ricks. As the episode ends, all the Rickless Mortys are sent to the Citadel, and we see evil Morty join them, revealing he was controlling evil Rick all along. It was a plot twist that I did not see coming, and it was incredible, especially with For the Damaged Coda by Blonde Redhead playing in the background. It was an A-tier villain moment. In addition to the great plot, I loved all the references to how Morty is replaceable, such as the free Morty coupon. I felt like the humor in this episode worked really well and it wasn't forced. Flowing naturally, this was definitely my favorite episode of the entire season, and I gave it a 10 out of 10. In the final episode of the season, Rixy Business, Beth and Jerry go on a Titanic-themed getaway. They leave Rick in charge, and he throws a crazy alien rager. Things get a bit chaotic, and the house gets transported to another dimension, but we're introduced to Bird Person and Squanchy. Bird Person is a voice of reason and lets the kids know that Rick is actually depressed, and his partying is all to forget the past and present. This kinda hits hard. Morty teams up with Aberdolf Linkner in an attempt to get them home and is sorely disappointed by Rick. Rick eventually transports them and the house back, and the season ends with him freezing time so they can clean the house. So that was the A plot, but my favorite plot was the B plot. On their getaway, we can see that Jerry is really excited to do activities with Beth, but she blows him off and tells the maid to participate in her place. The maid falls in love with the idea of being Rose and Jerry being Jack, and she forces him to draw her nude before Beth saves him. We get some funny jokes about her being a psycho, and I laughed out loud at Jerry's portrait of her. I genuinely enjoyed the introduction of new characters in this episode, and I really appreciated the insight on how Rick is actually depressed. So I gave this episode a 9.3. When I first saw Rick and Morty back in 2017, I loved it. Rewatching it, I still freaking love it. Looking back on season 1, there is a lot of foreshadowing that pays off in future seasons. With this season, the writers did a wonderful job of fleshing out the Rick and Morty universe. I love the family dynamic between Rick and the Smiths. We can see how he's starting to divide the family with his negative influence. I also really enjoyed the humor in this season. It's wacky, slapsticky, zany, and science-y. This is a show where you need a high IQ to watch. Just kidding. I know that was a common saying a couple of years back, but it still makes me laugh. However, in all fairness, the show does make me feel a little smart. It'll make jokes and use scientific words, so in my mind I'm like, oh, he said something science-y, and I laughed. Therefore, I am smart. I know it doesn't work that way, but I'm gonna pretend it does. I know it's a point of contention amongst some viewers, but I love the animation style. Specifically, I love the attention to detail that the animators put into their work. There are a lot of hidden clues and references within the background of a lot of shots. Hence the hundreds of episode breakdown videos on YouTube. I also love the soundtrack of the show. I don't think there was a single song that missed. Everything helped enhance the emotions I was feeling. I kind of skipped over this, but the voice acting was stellar. Each character has their own personality and feels unique. It's great and also very unfortunate that Justin Roiland goofed. Idiot. Freaking idiot. Topping things off, I love the mature and serious undertones in the show. Rick being depressed because he believes nothing matters is beyond accurate. Many of the people I know who believe in nihilism have similar personalities as Rick, and they are also very depressed. Despite being a comedy, these sprinkles of seriousness make the show feel much more engaging. Now to summarize, if you were keeping track of my previous scores, then you know I gave this show a 9.4 out of 10. If shows like Family Guy, Futurama, Archer, and BoJack Horseman aren't your cup of tea, then I wouldn't recommend watching this show. However, if you do like those shows and are interested in crazy interdimensional space travel adventures, then I would highly recommend watching Rick and Morty. There is a lot to enjoy. Thank you for listening to my review of Rick and Morty Season 1. If you enjoyed the content and want to support the channel, then leave a like and hit subscribe. If you did not enjoy the content, thank you for sticking around. You're a trooper. As always, I would love to read what you have to say, so leave a comment down below and let me know your thoughts. Also, if there's ever something you want me to review, don't forget to let me know and I will get to it slowly but surely. Now, it's my goal to try and do a season review every week moving forward, but I do have some other reviews intermingled in between, so I appreciate your patience. Lastly, if you want to see some more from me, you can check out my vlogs linked up above or my podcast, Good Friends. Again, thank you for watching. My name is Diego and I will see you next time.